the other one, the woman that's currently displaced, there half the time there's a dumpster park there, but the construction people park there, and at night,
Parking's very tight in the block. Like I'm
all
sure
over
like
the
most
west,
blocks in
all
Westport.
over the Westwood. Uh, there's a lot of cars in the West Ward that shouldn't be on the streets.
Your call could not be completed at this time. Your call could not be completed at this time. Your call could not be completed at this time.
It wouldn't be my friend who was calling to complain about that, would it?
What was your
That
friend's name?
that neighbor of mine.
What was the name? I don't remember.
The last name is Navarro. But there's nobody else on that end of the block.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Mayor.
I forgot to add absentee to county conduct on here. We're supposed to talk about absenteeism, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's on
here.
there.
Oh, it is on here? Oh,
on
okay.
there.
Adding attendance to the
Let
code.
me see.
You know, I may double down on it and make a ordinance where the pay is deducted for excessive absenteeism.
But just as a reminder, Mayor, we are recording.
Where'd you get that trash county raises cost the city $2 million per year? That was last year, not this year.
Yeah, but I thought we're still paying for it because we didn't go all the way up last year, didn't we?
Hmm?
I thought we only
No.
did 5 last year and then we did parking.
No, we did it all. I mean, we didn't raise trash this year.
No, but that was from last year.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. And then the fees are just, and what I wanted to say to her was, fees are clerical, you know, like you do for the parking ticket.
Hey, Louis.
But that's why the fees are for the trash, right?
Yeah.
Last year, $2 million.
And we didn't raise, and we kept the trash. I don't know if we're gonna be able to keep it the next year, but Debbie Garrity had another post on Facebook.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Who are you getting on the phone?
Typo.
Oh,
She.
Your call could not be completed at this time.
Brown. Brown delivers.
Brown do for you.
$1 million would be fine.
I need a hat or a wig. Call me there.
Oh, I forgot.
Your
to-
call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording,
Well, the first 2 times was my fault. I'll give it another second. Time's up. How are you?
Oh, let's start the meeting then, Mr. Ruggles. Dr. Ruggles isn't here. Is he gonna be here today? No, he didn't tell me.
He didn't say anything.
He was at breakfast this morning because he's doing his 2-week intense course up at St. Luke Sanderson campus.
Poor dog. Frank
Love.
called the cops.
Call the police, I think, but they're in the middle of shit change.
Oh, look, he's kind of hanging out the car.
What?
Looks like he's ready to
He's been
jump.
doing it the whole time.
The police won't do it. They'll call
No,
the.
but they'll get the license plate.
Okay.
My one is right across the street. Huh? No, I couldn't remember. Same number. Non-emergency 911, it goes to the same.
Goes to the same place. It's not the same numbers.
I didn't know it, so. I said, it's not emergency, Lewis. Ambos, city administrator, CAM, POS, call whenever I need you. CAM, POS. You called that one?
It's still not gonna get any faster. You were lucky that they were up there on a call.
Lewis signs.
It just gets you in the news quicker.
A lot of angels around.
But no one's really, they're not really following. Maybe we'll jump something.
You had a lot of angels around you that day.
No kidding.
Hello,
Hello, Taiba?
this isn't her.
May I speak to Taiba?
There's none. No one here named Tyba.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye.
All right, no, wait a minute. I just,
You didn't get me.
hold on a second.
You were supposed to call me.
Maybe I have the number wrong.
Talking about that for a while.
610-731-1638. And then she
Oh, yeah,
said,
okay.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. May you ready?
You all heard
I can
that, right?
I watched the call. So
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll do
Mr. Brown?
like an intro
Here.
email.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr.
I'll copy
Pinnabone?
Here.
Mrs. Rose?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles? Ms. Sultana? Mayor Panto?
Here.
Just for a reminder, we're filming. Good side, we just done Lewis side.
Ooh.
Are you gonna
Okay, we're gonna start with the committee discussions. I hate to bring up the P word, but we said we were gonna talk about parking tonight. So let's talk about it. The recommendations are on my desk. I just didn't bring them in. But the recommendations, we already implemented. The one that we didn't implement was a $20 employee discount parking fee, because it would cost us a fortune. The other recommendations that we've already included have been the 300 block of Northampton Street on diagonal parking. We did not implement the 200 block yet. We're still evaluating that to make sure that it's proper, but it will add 20 spaces, so I think we'll end up doing it. And the other recommendation is to limit the number of on-street parking permits to some number. That's a percentage of the total number available. And the others that we'll discuss are validation programs. We want to put in a validation, we're waiting on the new software to put a validation program in for shoppers so that retail stores can offer a validation, like a 1 hour free parking if they park in the garage. We don't think we could do it on the street because it accepts coins and cards, but we're looking at seeing if we can get a P card where they could put the card in and get an hour of free parking in the meter. But we want the merchants to be a player in offering parking for shopping at their store and buying something. So if they bought a suit at the London shop, say, here's 2 hours of free parking, in downtown, I'll pay for your parking.
I assume at the London shop, you should get a free car.
But be that as it may, parking continues to be a problem in the downtown. As I said on the news tonight, our city was laid out by William Parsons in 1752, and there weren't cars there, and we weren't even thought of. So we were parking horses and wagons, which take up a lot less space. And so the streets were made with a 50-foot cartway instead of like a new city like Salt Lake City out in Utah. They made their streets 75 feet
That's big.
wide, so they could park diagonally on both sides of the street and still have 4 lanes of traffic. Some of the other recommendations have to do with the upgrades that were made in the software at the parking garages. We will always have a parking dilemma, a shortage of parking on event nights, whether it's an event at the State Theater with a 1,551 seat sellout, or whether it's a Bacon Fest or Garlic Fest or any of our festivals or candle lighting. We will always have events, and we're working with the software to try to figure out a way to, like, what we do with the State Theaters, we just put the arm up and let everybody out, and that goes a lot faster. The problem we're having is some of our people who are not technologically inclined get to the kiosk and they spend 20 minutes trying to figure it out, and that backs everybody up. But
I know one thing you mentioned, Mayor, was having an attendant there on certain days or nights, which I've noticed in other cities when we're expecting, like for the State Theater night, for example, we know a lot of people are going to be downtown. Have we thought about?
yeah, we actually
implementing
do
that?
have people there because of the problem with the kiosk. But we keep that in mind for all the events. We do it for even when we're offering flat fee parking in the garages, we offer it. But we're wanting to make sure we're getting the State Theater's adding shows now in the mid-season, and that is one of our problems, is that sometimes they don't let us know. So we're gonna Dave Hopkins is gonna call the State Theater up. We talked about that today.
Man, one of the things that concerns me with that, though, is if we do go that one, I think it's a great way to go. I think we ought to look into at least looking at a booth for the attendees that's going to be there. Whether it's going to be summertime or wintertime, the weather's going to affect them by standing outside.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I have to add with the parking garages, in respect to the residential permits that are being leased for some of these projects, such as the Seville or the Confluence, is that we're providing a little bit of a cap as a buffer to not let a certain amount in, because I think I've been getting calls. I know Councilman Pinnenbone has received calls. I'm not sure if the city's received any calls or complaints about I've had quite a few calls from downtown residents coming back. A lot of times not realizing it's a State Theater night. You know, not everyone knows the schedule, and coming back and not being able to park in the garage. And then they're asking me, well, where do I park now? Because, like,
Park right in this garage. The State Theater uses the 4th Street garage. This garage is empty on State Theater nights.
okay, I think there needs to be some communication with the apartment managers or things like
Or even
that.
signage that says in the 4th Street garage that they can park at the 3rd.
Something, because I've gotten calls and they're like, are you going to pay my parking ticket because now they don't have a street permit, and it's happened enough where I think it's an issue.
I got a couple calls too, and one of the things I told them is that they might want to entertain the idea of using or downloading the app, which is going to give out
But
alerts.
they've already paid for the permit.
Yeah,
so
no,
I don't want
but it
them
gives-
to have to like download the app. Like I know what my zones are for the residential permit, and I'm happy. Like tonight, I was cutting up pretty quickly against a work meeting. I parked across the street instead of parking in the garage, even though I could do that. I paid for it. It's out of my zone. I understand that, but like I don't think someone should have to do that with a residential permit.
No,
if they
what
find the
what
garage is full.
What I'm saying is that, and I agree with you there. What I'm saying is that at least they know that in a case of a State Theater event, something's happening. You know, that's what I'm saying. Because as you said, a lot of times we don't know the State Theater's having something because of the event change.
But I think the point is, if I'm paying for parking at the 4th Street garage, there should never be a reason why I don't have a spot at the 4th Street garage, because I'm paying for it for the month. Right? That's my opinion. I should always, I know, see Tony shaking his head. If I pay for something, then it's mine, right? I'm renting a spot, and we're selling it 3 and 4 times.
I think
In Allentown, if you go into many of the garages downtown Allentown, they have some of the higher up levels are permit parking only,
Yeah.
and it's reserved. So someone who's coming in for a show or dinner or something like that isn't even able to pay. So that at least provides a buffer for those residents. And yeah, it's at the upper levels of the parking garage.
which makes good sense.
It's not the most convenient spot in the garage, but it's
And there might
At
be
least
capping
there.
permits or capping amount of parking, but just renting them as they come and then not providing parking spaces. I just don't think it's fair for the people that are living down here.
If we were to use a percentage of like perhaps the overnight parking where like most people, with understanding that there might be some people who work overnight or something like that, a shift, would the system allow us to prevent just daily parkers from coming in at a certain, could we like add some type of cap so that there's enough parking for those permit holders?
I don't know. We didn't ask Mazen that question.
Also, Mayor and Lewis, I know we brought this up at the beginning of the year, directional signage for when people are coming into town. I know we talked about it, but I don't think, well, obviously we didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I get flagged all the time walking downtown, especially when I walk the dogs around dinner time. My husband and I live downtown, as most of you guys know, and people are like, where do I park? Or does this restaurant have a parking lot? And I think at least for people who are coming in from out of town, which is quite a few people, I think at this point, just having some directional signage, I think could be helpful, just pointing them towards the parking garage, because people are circling, and I don't think, it seems obvious, but I don't know if they're driving up. I think especially the parking behind this building, not everyone knows that there's a garage here.
And that's been in both studies, so, that's come up on numerous occasions.
Anybody else want to say anything else about parking? We could be here all night if you want.
Yeah, I guess I want to talk about, or discuss when do we stop? When are we going to stop? What's the number, if we have one, of renting parking spaces to developers that are coming in?
The analysis is done every week with the occupancy report, and I can tell you the occupancy report is plentiful. There's plenty of parking available, but we don't have people who want to park in the garages. But we're never going to, we don't have enough parking for events. We know that. We don't have it.
But if we continue to keep offering these permits to new developments, at a point, there's not going to be, we're going to really find ourselves in a pickle. Because there are a lot of events and there are a lot of busy nights downtown. I live down here. It's busy usually, especially, I would say Thursday night, but Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday all day. Like,
I would say not at the discretion, per se, I think, of the administration. Council wants to set a policy, happen, certainly.
Lewis, currently, refresh our memory if you can, you probably don't have it on you. How many organizations or apartment buildings, businesses are renting out of the 4th Street garage currently?
One.
I didn't know if you had it on top of your head.
The only one we have an agreement with is Seville.
We got the National Building.
Fleet. Oh, okay.
No, don't worry about it. I'll get it next one.
But whenever you ask me for that analysis, I have to continually crunch those numbers.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I didn't think you'd had it, but
Yeah, the last time we did this was probably months ago. But it has to be, whenever you ask me that question, it has to be updated.
right, I got you.
I think you guys are bringing up a lot of valid points, but right now, the way the system, our system is designed, is that there is no cap. There's a lot of discretion. If you want to set policies, you can set policies. But I think we have to do it together, because I have to give you information in order for you to set that policy. It's not just a one
don't want to do anything without the data. So I'm not just throwing things out, but when you start, I'm concerned when, and I'm just concerned when, and it's not been one or two, it's been quite a few. There are different people who've called me and then have called Councilman Pinnabone. I'm just concerned that, and now, there are proposals to offer additional permits. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but the last time we went over parking data, a lot of it was based on assumptions, and I don't feel comfortable making those decisions. I mean, at this point now, hopefully we have better data with the new parking system, but I do have concerns. And I mean, I think the other part of the conversation is, how can we incentivize some of the newer developments? Because there will be more to add parking into their plans, because for the future, I don't know what is our forecast of what we might need. I don't know what that is either, but we have to consider, but all of these things have to be considered, because we don't want to find
Well,
ourselves
when we do the comp
with,
plan,
with apartment buildings that people are calling us, and I don't know what to do with them now. Like, where do they park? I don't have a spot. I don't have a garage. I've offered to go and meet somebody when they found a parking spot to pay out of my own pocket for their on-street parking, because I feel for somebody coming home with groceries or a kid in the back of the car. What do I do? Are we going to refund their parking ticket? Well, I think that's also.
I mean, I understand they signed it. It's still, it's not right.
I
agree with it.
I also want to. I don't think that's right, personally. I'm just putting that out there. And the other side of it is, I mean, there is a cost associated whether the developer or the owner of the apartment building's passing it on. They're still paying for it. Let's face it. And the other side of it too is like, I'm concerned about not having the answers to the problems we are already experiencing, and then handing out and offering more to future projects, and then finding ourselves in a space where we have to build another garage, which, I don't really personally want to spend that money. At this point, we just went through the budget process. We're running so lean, to have to, and where would it go? I mean, there are just so many questions, and I feel like we keep talking about things that could happen and ideas, and nothing's happening. We don't have the directional signage. We don't have a cap, and we keep saying, oh yeah, and nothing's being done about it. And we're the ones who receive the calls at the end of the day. And it pains me when I don't have an answer or a solution for somebody.
the answer that I give everybody is the same that Joe Moranville gave me. I don't want to talk about parking. I was here when there was plenty of parking and no customers to pay the bills.
Well, when you live downtown, you want to talk about it, because when there's a problem, we've got to figure a solution out.
But if you live downtown and you rent an apartment, not a homeowner, but rent an apartment where there's no parking, you should know that.
Well,
Same
then,
as
yeah,
happened
but
at Commodore.
what happens when people are trying to come back home and they don't have anywhere to go? Where do I tell them to go? Sal, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Well, I agree with you. I don't disagree.
But
All
then
I'm saying
I
is,
just don't want.
if I move into an apartment on Center Square, I'm going to know that I'm going to walk a block.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, I walk 2 or 3 blocks sometimes. I do what I have to do. I knew that moving downtown. I don't think that, but when you're
Grocery shopping or
when you come home and you need to park somewhere and your only permit is the garage, and it's not every day. I don't think it's an everyday thing, but it's not. They're not talking about Bacon Fest and Garlic Fest. I think everyone with 2 brain cells at this point can understand, the big festivals, don't move your car. I certainly don't. Or go away for the weekend or something like that, or volunteer. Everyone's welcome to volunteer. I always have spots available at Bacon Fest and Garlic Fest, but we've got to look at some of these. The State Theater happens all year round, and I don't consider that a big event necessarily. That's something that happens all the time. Throughout the week, and we're going to have to look at it, and we have to come up with something. I don't think we're going to solve it tonight, but I think we need to continue meeting, looking at some of the data, and trying to come up with some solutions, because it's going to get worse if we keep offering permits to new developments. We're going to find, and we don't put any kind of perimeters in place.
Lewis said it, and I've said it, is council, if you don't want permits, if you don't want those type of agreements, when the comp plan comes up, discussion comes up, and Dwayne was supposed to be here tonight. Dwayne's not here.
Yeah, I thought you
Well,
were
May I
talking about
agree,
building
and that's
heights
what I
in
think
downtown.
Councilwoman Rose said, we just need the data. We can't just make that decision without it. So
Well, I
When
realize that.
Lewis is gonna bring the
but-
data, and then we can look at it.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
and go through this. I mean, or the mayor as well. But I think you brought up some valid points, and I think that before we present it to council, we could have some working
Councilman
discussion.
Pinnabone did buy a house across the street from my house because it didn't have a driveway.
Right. Right.
I mean, you make those decisions.
But-
I bought my house because I came from College Hill and I have a driveway and
No,
I
I-
could park 2 cars.
But Mayor, when we talk about the past downtown, when people bought houses down here, parking was an issue. Nobody wanted to be here. I get it, 100%. But now, and you can park, and I always argue with people. You can park. You used to be able to park anywhere on the
What's that?
street.
Why aren't we talking about the West Ward? The West Ward has a worse parking problem than downtown.
Well, I think I think we have to talk about the West Ward and South Side, but talking all together, we're not getting anything accomplished. So I figure we might as well start downtown and then work our way to the neighborhoods.
And this
Since
is-
I've been here,
Crystal,
we've been talking, but
what-
we're not
what-
doing anything much
Why don't
about
I
it.
work with Councilwoman Rose, so you can formulate your ideas as a proposal to council, and I could help you get you the information. It's not that I think what you're doing is the right thing by bringing up these issues. So why don't we work together so you can bring up these issues as a proposal?
That sounds like a good plan. I don't think that, I think that we just have to put some perimeters in place. I think we can figure that out.
One last thing that I'd like to say is that there is very little. We won't allow demolition in the historic district. We'll never get that. We don't want it. We don't want demolition of existing properties. And the only properties that we've built on in the last 18 years are urban renewal properties that were vacant and were empty. Seville was a building. It was torn down in 65, 66. And now there's a building there. It replaced the same size building that was there. It was a movie theater. And they got good attendance because they showed the Disney films. This building there were buildings all up and down on Lehigh Street and on 3rd Street and on 4th Street. And we built this building. I don't see development other than the 2 bookends, which are causing the problem. I mean, you really have a lot of properties, a lot of buildings here. But the building, the Commodore, is replacing 70 properties that existed there on Lehigh Street and what was then called Riverside Drive.
But back then, Mayor, there wasn't as many cars as there is now.
You're missing my point. My point is there's only so much land in downtown. And I agree with Tony. I mean, I would rather go up, but we don't.
Well,
We don't
I'd
go
rather
up.
go up too, but not everywhere.
But-
And Tony has a different perspective. You know what I mean? Like, as he comes down from Forks, he gets to go back up to Forks. We're still here.
Yeah, and I have to live downtown, and I just wish
He's
some
got
of these
sidewalks.
newer developments would include parking underneath the residential
Public
spaces.
comment.
How can we incentivize that?
Not on-
Because in the long run, it's going to be a better investment for the developer or whoever ends up buying it from the developer. That's really another fear of mine, like who ends up buying some of these property, but that's a separate discussion for a later time. But I'm seeing it in other cities. Like they're building on parking on the first and sometimes first and second floors for some of these residential buildings. And I think
Yeah.
it is. I think it's.
They're doing it at the waterfront.
Watermark.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think I have a lot of people I've met who live right around the corner from me at Watermark are excited why they left there. Some of them are breaking leases at other buildings to move in there because they have on-site parking, and they don't have to walk 2 football fields away. I don't mind walking, but some people do, or some people aren't able-bodied enough to do it. I get it, but we've got to look at incentivizing that within development as well. I think,
I don't know that you have to incentivize it.
or encouraging it.
Encouraging it, well, we can dictate it.
Yes.
The ordinance right now allows them to do this.
Your call could not be completed at this time. Your call could not be completed.
Tell her to give you the right number. She keeps texting you saying she's waiting for Karen to call her. Well, call in, give her the number.
I did.
Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong here too. And when we're looking at, I know we just talked about the West Ward, and their parking is unique to the area, so to speak. And most of their parking is because not the ones that are homeowners, but the renters who are putting 4 and 5 cars there. That's the problem there. So I think Dr. Ruggles put it up, and I'll be glad when we start to look at that more, that we start having people have not permit, but having a card or something that says, or a placard on the car that they live in this area, because that is getting swelled out too.
Yeah, and he wants to charge higher amounts for the permit when you get past 2 cars. I mean, I just worry about the neighborhoods as much as I worry about the downtown, and the downtown is a neighborhood, and it's a dichotomy.
It is a
that it's a neighborhood and it's a business district, and that's why my ordinance on the building heights doesn't include the DD. Oh, I thought I printed that out. I'll go get it, because we're gonna need that.
So Crystal, does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, I'd like to set up a meeting when you
Okay.
have some time to discuss. Or,
Sure.
I know we're meeting on Friday, so,
I'll say something right afterwards.
okay. Or we
Not-
can
We can just start it.
or we
set
can-
something up. Yeah,
compare
'cause there'll
schedules
be a
and
lot, yeah.
throw part 2 on.
I mean, I think you've identified the issues. So
Yeah.
we have the data, and I think some of it can overlap.
I don't know that we have to put the kibosh. I don't feel comfortable making future decisions unless we're looking at like possibly putting some parameters in place. I don't think you have to like save half the spots in the garage, but we do have to save some parking for people so that they have a place to park when they come back.
I'll give you the data, and then you can put a proposal together for council, and I'll advise you on how, if you want it how flexible do you want it to be? So we can work on that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
I think one of the problems is, though, if you're guaranteeing places, you're giving them a discount rate with the permit for, now these spaces are gonna be tied up with, that was based on other people being able to use
Well,
those spots, and it wouldn't affect the assumptions of what the income would be from it. But if we're gonna guarantee spots, then we're gonna lose all the other income from that spot.
Yeah, I don't
for
know.
24
I
hours.
don't know if she's getting there. So Crystal, I think Councilwoman Rose identified some issues which are really good. I think that it gets very chaotic if we talk about it here, because there's so many point of views. It'd be best, I think, if we work on it together, and then you put your ideas
Yeah.
on paper as a policy.
I didn't say guarantee. I said
Yes.
capping at a percentage so that it frees up, and it may have to be tweaked in the future. Whatever we propose, we see how it goes, and if there are issues, we might have to go back. If we see, not a lower percentage during the times that are needed, maybe we reduce the cap at a point. I mean, all
it's
of
a
that's
start.
on the table.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's a start.
saying that every single permit gets a spot, because I mean, some of the other questions I have are, like, what we've agreed to with the developer, do we know all of those apartments are actually, like, what the inventory is looking like how many are rented, in regards to how many allotted permits we've given, or do we know, or
Why don't we sit down and talk about
Okay.
that? It's not quite like that, but we'll
Look, Crystal, when you meet, look at events too. I mean, back then, to Sal's point, there was a lot going on, but we weren't shutting streets down for events. Starting this Saturday, the Winter Market's closing Northampton from 4th to the Circle. It's a lot of parking spaces that are going to be lost from those hours.
I mean,
So
in those
we got to
hours,
take those into consideration.
parking's very light in that time span.
Well, I was here Saturday and it was packed. I couldn't get a spot there.
I saw
Saturday
your
morning.
truck there on Saturday morning.
Yeah. So-
Right in front of Siegel, I thought.
No.
No?
I got over to the bank after circling the block 3 times because I have a walking problem. I'm not parking in the garage.
I thought I saw your truck.
Yeah, I was
Saturday
circling.
morning.
But what I mean is, it was packed. So we're losing those parking spots. That's
Yeah.
revenue. That's people parking.
The issue that I think we're running into, if you don't want to walk, that shouldn't be one of our issues.
Understood.
If the
I agree.
garages are full at 100%, and you have a monthly pass and you can't get in there, and it's happening several times a year, if not a dozen times a year, that's the kind of issue that we're trying to resolve.
Yeah.
But like, I just, like, I'm not, and I agree with that issue. But if you're gonna argue that you can't.
No, I'm not arguing about the walking. I
No,
get
no,
it.
but if you're,
No.
generally speaking, if you're gonna argue that I can't park a block, like in front of my location where I wanna go.
Right.
this is a city.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, guys,
Right.
I agree with that.
the demand is so strong to be in a city.
I
Okay,
get it.
We're gonna
I'm
lose
talking about the
that, we're gonna
residents
lose
coming
that
home
customer to
that have a
Walmart.
permit and don't have a parking. That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking
All
about.
right, that's fine.
And the directional signing,
Yeah.
signage.
That's
We've been talking about that for
See,
about a year.
Well, that's a little bit bigger, and I think we gotta talk about it. It's something that we should have addressed during the budget season, but why don't we talk about it again? I think we need to have some smaller group meetings and then bring up these discussions here, and not, you can't even have a presentation here by a director. You gotta have smaller group meetings, then have a presentation here by a director on the findings, then have deliberation and continue this discussion. Not do all the minutia here, because it's too much. Because we talk about all the issues that we have, and there's so much data, we don't have time to go back and.
You're absolutely right, but this is where it has to come up, and now you have a
No,
subgroup,
exactly.
and you guys will make
Yeah,
it.
Okay, we're on the same, we're on the same.
Lou, just a question
Yeah.
for you. With the Watermark and also with Confluence, what made them decide to build up and under? I mean, it made sense for the Watermark because they're in a flood zone. They put it,
I think it's a combination of flood zone and the market. I mean, I think
So
at the end of the day, we're not ready. Well, at the end of the day, it was the dynamics of being in a flood zone, and then also the market taking that opportunity.
Plus,
Well,
I think,
but-
Councilman, I think it's they know they need parking for people to move
exactly,
in,
that was my point.
and a lot of developers are saying, "Hey, if we
Smart
can get
move.
it, if we can get it from the city, why spend millions of dollars on the parking garage?"
Put the words out of my mouth. That was my next question.
And
You
I
know,
suppose
so
we also-
we're essentially subsidizing the developments and the
Yeah,
development.
and that was my
That's
whole
where
thing.
that's why I want to talk about renting them out.
No,
The people that live here that bought their house here before the developments came, now they're struggling to get parking because we're subsidizing developers. So
Listen. Hold on. First of all, you need. There was an idea way before us that we needed the garage. There are existing buildings here that were built way before we came into office here to manage government that had zero parking. Okay, so the garages do serve a purpose. All right, and you can call it subsidizing developers or doing this and doing that, but you know what? It has served a purpose to bring in millions and millions of dollars into the city, and it's keeping us afloat without having to raise taxes. I look at the budget and I see it, but at the same time, we need to evolve and we need to change. And I think what Councilwoman Rose has brought up is all accurate. And I think we need to continue to evolve, change, and think through this problem. The garages were there to help spur development in the city. Mission accomplished. But in order to move forward, and you can call it subsidizing, but it was there to bring in millions. of dollars.
understood. And in order to move forward, we have to have these discussions
Now-
because we can't keep building without
Right, no,
discussing.
I agree. So mission accomplished,
Right.
right? Including meeting the comprehensive plan, which says we needed more residential downtown. It was very, very deliberate on that, including the confluence. It was very deliberate, all right? Mission accomplished. Now we gotta move forward, and I think this is where this is what we all have to think
And we've
through
got a
this.
plan based on all of the development that's happened, like making smart decisions moving forward.
And the comp plan is this year.
Well, I think we have to start, Mayor, it
It's time.
still has like 3-4 years in it.
No, but we said we were gonna do
We
it
said
this
we're
year.
going to move
Yeah.
this year.
We have
It's
to,
time.
yeah, we have to start,
Updating.
no, we have to start applying for the grants, and there's a whole process. We're in that timeline.
Well, we said during our budget session, we were saying we were gonna do it this year.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we got to start the process.
Yeah.
We have
So,
to start
Well,
the
we
process.
do the zoning recodification, that'll help.
Yeah, well,
so when do
I can't, I
do
couldn't.
you have
figure
a ETA on when we start applying for the grants for the comp plan overseer, whatever you want to call the person,
The consultant.
consult? There you go.
we can bring in Dwayne so we can have that discussion with you guys and
I
put
thought he was gonna be here.
put a timeline
Yeah, I was
together.
hoping Mr. Tillman would be here tonight.
He was supposed to
go
be.
over the
We talked
zoning.
about it today at the staff meeting.
Maybe an emergency.
Maybe. All right, building heights in downtown, the recommendation is that the downtown has 2 districts, zoning districts. A B and E
Mayor,
business,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I know when we usually do this, if a person has something to talk about in those letters, Tony wanted to speak on the parking.
oh yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Sorry.
So yeah, Tony Claypatch, 1974 Mercer Way. But I just want to go back to when I moved downtown here 5 years ago, when I lived down here at 5 North 3rd Street, right off the circle. One of the things that I knew going into living in a city, I'm from the Poconos, living in a city, you got to find parking. And one of the things I was looking for in an apartment was to have a private off-street space, and I was able to get that. And I feel like that's one thing that it's like when you're looking for a place or a house downtown, that's something to keep in mind. You have to, know what you're getting into. You have to know what the parking situation is. And also, if you're in an apartment downtown that does not provide parking, or they provide parking through the garage, that sometimes you're not going to be able to find a space. It's not guaranteed. The city shouldn't guarantee it. It's a public parking garage. That's not really something that the city should be in. But I really feel like, obviously, this also comes back to the height limit coming up next. But one reason that I'm against that is, let's say they want to build parking on the first 2 floors. That impacts their height then now. So now they can't build as many residential units, and that's probably not going to make them really think that this project is as viable, including that parking on site. So they're going to try to seek parking spaces in the garage, and that's going to take away parking from everybody else.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. The 2 districts in downtown are DD, which is the downtown district, which is a neighborhood, and the B&E, which is business and entertainment district. And we created a business and entertainment district because that's what we wanted to be able to distinguish between the 2 types of uses. The uses in the business and entertainment district is the Northampton Street corridor and the 3rd Street corridor. And I'm not recommending that we lower the height on that. It was really interesting because at the turn of the 21st century, well, 20th century, in the 1900s, when all the big buildings were built in downtown Easton, everybody was saying, oh, wow, look, Easton is growing. We had the Alpha building, the Hotel Easton, the 401 Northampton Street building, the Wells Fargo building, the Easton National Bank. And everybody was happy. But lately, and if you look, watched a lot of football in the last couple of days, and if you look, you see the big cities, they have, the whole downtown is just massive big buildings, but then it gets really small out in the neighborhoods. So being a small city, not a big city, we need to address the out of scale and out of size and out of mass that is being proposed in our downtown off site of Northampton and 3rd Street. And that is what I did, lowered it from 75 feet to 55 feet. And that 20 feet would lower it to about three floors, maybe 4, if they're creative enough to create lofts. But if you look at, for example, on Northampton Street, New York Tailors, where Mars Hill Travel used to be, they're 4 and 5 stories high. I mean, they don't look that high. But the buildings that are building today, when you build a 4 or 5 story building, it's too big, too tall. So I think lowering it in the neighborhoods is really important. For example, and the 2 that brought it out were A&R's development up in 6th Street and 70 North 4th Street. Both of them are out of scale for that neighborhood. And I think we should be protecting our neighborhood and remain the small town that we are. I know a lot of people don't believe this, but I really believe in the European model where downtowns and cities build up and suburbs build out. As a developer in the suburbs, both Palmer Township and Forks Township, we built out. I mean, at some point, the suburbs had a one acre limit. You had to have 1 acre subdivisions, and then it went to a quarter of acre, a third of an acre, and a half acre, then a third of an acre. So they're starting to get the density, and they're suffering not from a parking situation where you go by the Palmer Mall and it's empty. You see all this black macadam, macadam, and it's just filled with, all it is water runoff, and it creates stormwater problems in that area.
Mayor, regarding the ordinance for tomorrow, are you going to pull it?
Yeah, we're going to pull. Oh, so that's what
we're going to discuss.
I was getting that. So Joel, and he's right in recommending that it go to the Planning Commission first. So we'll table it tomorrow night. It's on the agenda, and we'll table it, and it'll go to the Planning Commission. I already talked to Ken Green about it. He agrees with my position, and I'm sure it'll pass the Planning Commission. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But right now, it's on the we're gonna put it on the planning commission for January or February.
Yeah, and that was the point, I think, part of it that we discussed internally after we reviewed it. So the mayor's gonna pool, we can't just, in other words, simply put, any change to like zoning, has to go through a process.
I have some additional comments to add to Mayor. If you have some time to meet this week, I'll send you some
Okay.
available times this week. I've spent some time walking especially the last 2 days, the neighborhoods, and I just want to make sure some of them. I would like to see kind of like everything mapped out, which was why I was hoping Dwayne was going to be here tonight.
Well,
but
I did map it out. I have the map. The zoning map. It
Yeah.
won't print. It's printing the portion that has the code, not the portion that has the downtown.
I have some other considerations as well, like especially along Larry Holmes Drive and over like the strip mall over by Wawa, making sure like those are, I think, possible like exciting development opportunities in the future for the city. So I could share
You'll
some
never
of
get
that.
that Wawa. We'll never give up that lease.
Yeah. Well-
It's one of the top 5 in the country of their 750 stores.
Right, but.
No, but I'm just saying that
zoning.
from a zoning perspective, some of those areas, I have some things outlined and some other thoughts to share, which if we could meet this week, I'd
Great.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Great.
Right, let her see.
Tony?
So one of my concerns with how the downtown district is outlined in the zoning ordinance when it comes to the height limit, it says obviously 110 feet right now for mixed-use development and 45 feet, I think it is, for mixed multifamily houses. So how the street corridor enhancement overlay district works is it adds 30 additional feet at street intersections and 15 additional street at mid-block any developments. So I know we've talked about in previous city council meetings that this isn't going to affect any developments along Northampton Street or 3rd Street in terms of how high they can go. But based on how I'm reading this ordinance for the street overlay districts and combined to the downtown district zoning ordinance, it sounds like you're only going to be limited to 55 plus 30 then off of Northampton and 3rd at intersections and 55 plus 15 at, mid-block.
The intent of the ordinance is to keep the scale. So the scale on Northampton and 3rd Street is 5 to 7. So you'll still have 5 to 7 stories. I don't think we're going to get a 30-story building in downtown Houston. I don't know. But you're right.
I just want to make sure that was accounted for.
It is. And we gotta weigh the thing that Louis and I are weighing, and Mark, the financial impact on the city versus the aesthetic viewpoint. More people downtown, more people in the city, obviously creates more wealth. And the city is a very poor city that has a lot of capital needs in the next 5 years. And we're trying to start to create an opportunity for that. But these 2 buildings on each side of the city hall will probably add about $1.5 million a year to the city coffers. So that $1.5 million almost, it takes care of at least part of the capital, but it takes care of all of our increases, the normal increases, inflationary increases for payroll and I just think that the impetus for all of the discussion, we can't forget about the financial impetus. I mean, it's really important to the city because the city is small, and because it's small, it has financial issues. And we have a lot of capital needs. We have 3 fire stations that have to be upgraded or replaced in the next 2 years. And we're talking $15 to $20 million. And that's a lot of money.
One of the problems, Mayor, is that we're in a reversal. In the last 10 years, Easton has seen a reversal. And what I mean by that is that in the early 70s into the 90s, people were leaving the city and going to the suburbs. That is now, that trend is reversed. And sitting down talking to my younger kids, they want to live downtown. They want to be where, as they said, the action is, where they can eat, We can have fun. We can go home, and don't have to worry about driving. So that's I mean, that's the change that's happening. We can stop it, but we need to at least entertain, as Councilwoman Crystal said and Councilman Frank Penabone has said. We have to look at it. We have to really plan for it because it's happening right in front of us.
And the problem is we have an infrastructure that's been in place since the early 1900s. And
Correct. Mm-hmm.
You
You can't move that stuff. That's
can't move it. I
That's
mean,
history.
If we had the money to build a new parking garage, where would you put it? You'd have to tear a building down. You're not going to tear a building down in downtown Easton.
I know a place I'm going.
Yeah, we just have to tweak things as we go and do the
We
best
do,
we
we
can.
really do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's like an easy solution to anything. We've just got to keep
We have
tweaking
it
it as we go.
We can't kick it down the road. It's not going to work.
No.
I mean, we know there's a major tourist attraction that needs a new location, and we can't find one. We can't find one in the downtown area.
All right.
All right?
Yep.
Mr. Pitterbone, you want to talk about adding attendance to the code of conduct for council as a whole?
Yeah, as a whole for going forward. Councilwoman Rose, you sent that to everybody, didn't you?
Yeah.
So Councilwoman Rose sent some really good ideas that I'd like to, that we all saw to implement tomorrow to discuss. But I was thinking, and I wish Joel or Jeremy were here, we could ask them tomorrow. I think we put something in, and it'll take place with I would assume with the incoming council. I'm not sure, I'm fine with putting it in place now, but, we should tie the pay to attendance. If people aren't showing up, if people aren't, doing their job, then that should reflect on their paycheck. I mean, we don't make a ton of money, but $9,000 a year. If you're not showing up, if you're not contributing, then you shouldn't be getting paid taxpayer dollars to not do your job. Again, I wish our attorneys were here, but I'd like to add that in there.
At least, please call in and say, hey, I'm not going to be here on this date. Give council and administration plenty of time. I'm 3 weeks out, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make it on the 21st. First thing I did was make a phone call, let Karen know, and please let the mayor's office know. But that's how you do it. You just don't not show, not call. It doesn't work that way.
Well, and even listen, I think Crystal and I, or Councilwoman Rose and I were talking. Everybody has something coming up, and sometimes you can't predict it; it just comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have a job to do, right? And if you're repetitively missing,
Absolutely.
not showing up, not calling in, you're not doing your job. So I feel that we should have some. You shouldn't be compensated full rate if you're not doing your job. So that and I hear about it from the residents. How come so and so wasn't here? How come this one wasn't here? If you call in or you go on vacation, it's life. You get a fender bender, your kid gets sick last minute. You didn't know you weren't coming. I get it, but and this isn't meant to make people come 100% attendance. But it's there's you're missing 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 in a row. I mean something has to happen.
Getting a paycheck.
Getting a paycheck.
And that's a good question for Joel and Jeremy tomorrow, because I don't know if council has that power to do that. I don't know if it has to go to referendum, because we can set it, but does that have to be passed, Mayor, by?
I think you can embarrass a sitting council member by not showing up, but I don't think you can do anything to terminate them.
No.
Not terminate.
No, I know what I'm saying. I don't think you can terminate. I know you can't terminate them because they are elected.
Aren't the salaries set by ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
So then you can change it. They're not set by the ballot.
I don't
There's
thi-
room.
It's not in the charter.
Okay.
No, it's not in the charter. It's set by ordinance. And this city council can take Councilman Pinnabone's recommendation and make that.
I think one of the items as well, just for people, for the residents who, we've got another election coming, it's just good. I think it's fair once a year to give a report of attendance, so that when people are making that decision, I know not everyone gets a chance to show up here or tune in every week to the or every other week to the streamed meetings. But it's good to just have that out there if somebody's interested in.
Well, I was called on the carpet by
attendance
saying that I
numbers.
didn't call in. And I've called in from Italy, I've called in from the cruise ship, I've called in from the streets of Puerto Rico. And I have I have witnesses that have proven that I've done that. I've missed dinners because of the my call in from my cabin on the cruise ship because, but if there's nothing on the agenda that I think is worth my attendance, then I call Karen. I just say I'm not coming in. I won't be at the meeting. But I do no one has to let me know. They have to let Karen know. Karen is the provider for the schedule, and she is. So if you're going to miss a meeting, call her. Don't call me. I am the chair, but I'm not the person who keeps attendance.
The other thing, Mayor, is that I think it was the last couple years ago. It doesn't matter. My wife had made plans for a vacation that it was supposed to be a surprise. I didn't know, and it was a budget time. I called in on that budget night to make that vote.
I know.
It wasn't her fault.
I remember that night.
We didn't communication. I blame myself.
Mayor, another thing, not that I see it's a problem, but going forward and with new people potentially coming onto the election, each council member has $2,500 stipend for the year to go to trainings, different things. And I know a lot of members don't take advantage of it because of work and family, which is totally fine. It's not a requirement. But if you are taking the money and going, I spoke to Councilwoman Rose about it. Wherever you go, whatever you do with it, you should be able to come back at the next meeting and give a report.
Absolutely.
On what you had, because I mean, again,
That's just common.
so I like to. Unfortunately, I think we should add that though. I know Crystal, Councilwoman Rose, and myself have been doing it. The mayor does it. I guess we're the only ones that really go anywhere with the money, but we should just have that in writing so other members coming on or different things in the road, there's no discrepancy or people not.
And I agree with you. I think if you're going to go to a conference, something like that, even if I'm going to a work conference, something like that, I have to come back and do a report on it. And you want to make sure that the conference that they're going to, they come back and report that things is going to help your city.
Right, absolutely.
And offer to share some of the information you learned with your other counterparts
Right.
who might not have had the chance to go to some of these educational opportunities.
Absolutely. So, Councilwoman, not to add any work to your schedule, but could you forward that email to Karen? I already forwarded
Oh,
it
I'm
to.
sorry, Karen. I
That's
thought
okay.
I already forwarded. She doesn't want to be bothered with our stuff anyway, unless she has to be. But I already forwarded to Joel and to Jeremy. They looked it over.
Absolutely. I'll send
But
it.
this way, Karen can see it, and
The-
we can bring it up tomorrow.
Just so you know, compensation is set by ordinance.
Right. So that we could adjust that.
It's not,
That's a
the
great
charter
idea.
says has to be set by ordinance.
Right.
So that gives you the power.
Um,
You could confirm.
Yeah, we'll confirm
I'll
it.
pass that along to Jeremy and Joel.
But I mean, I don't know if you have it either, Louis. You're not on the council email, but the recommendations that Councilwoman Rose made, if she wants to send it to you as well, that way you guys can see it, and we'll have it here for a vote tomorrow. And as far as the compensation,
Is it on the agenda?
oh, that's right, we can't. No, it's not. So we'll put it on for next, which is
We'll get
fine.
those in a discussion.
We can discuss it, and we can discuss the salary increments. Lewis, and especially Mark, if you guys can weigh in on that. I mean,
For what? I'm sorry. I'm not.
the deducting pay for that pay period if you missed
Well, I
too many,
think-
or at a certain amount.
I think it's easy math. It's the number of council meetings.
I mean, whatever you guys think
The
is
salary
fair.
divided by the number of council meetings.
All right, whatever you guys think is fair.
Well, no, it's up to. If this is a council.
I'm talking about the number, but I mean, I'm asking you for that. You love giving your recommendation. Don't stop now.
I give you the point. I give you the
It's
point.
roughly $375 per meeting.
The only reason why I say that is because
24 meetings a
I get
year.
a very how would you say it, nice sum, a payment for serving on the sewer authority.
Oh, that $35 is really going to help you.
$25.
25. Oh, it's
What does
25.
your attendance look like?
And if you do not attend a meeting at
You
the
don't get
sewer
paid.
authority, you don't get paid the $25.
That's right. That's true. Same way on zoning.
And it's the authority that sets those.
Where?
Zoning.
Here?
Zoning. Yeah, here.
Zoning board gets paid?
Yeah.
Yes.
$25 a month.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
They get paid
Get over
quarterly.
here. I didn't know that.
the board over there sets the
35 for the
payment.
chair.
That's why I put you rich guys on the planning commission rather than the zoning board. You don't need it.
I'm suing for back pay.
Oh, yeah? 50. Wow.
I mean,
Wait.
plus the steak dinner.
Forks is 50 for what? Oh, okay.
I'm gonna start coming to Forks meetings and talking.
Well, you just so in other
Yeah,
words,
okay, that's fine. That's
what is it? 9,500?
91.
91?
9,100. So
91 before taxes. All right, whatever. But so the members of council that are here today, $3.75 per meeting.
But the
Councilwoman Rose,
the mayor's not in there, so you have to figure out.
Well, I'm only counting 2 meetings, 4 meetings. Oh, what's 48 meetings? What am I thinking?
Yeah. Well, you have to count the meetings, because sometimes you may not have a meeting.
right? Executive, and do we take attendance at executive sessions?
No, but
We should start doing that.
it's not public. Only thing you report on that you had a meeting.
But we always take, in school, we always took attendance on executive session. Who attended, I think we should start doing that as well.
It's totally up to council, I would say. It's up to you, but
I mean, I feel attendance should be
we could have.
accounted for whenever council members are supposed to be somewhere to conduct city business. It should be verified that council members are there.
This is your policy,
agree.
not mine.
So I guess we're not going to vote on it tomorrow, but we'll discuss the salary and what will constitute a strike in salary for that or whatever. We can discuss that tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Anyone else have anything else?
No.
Tony,
Not.
nothing?
Go up.
It's Tony and Artie now. Where's Artie?
Artie's not here.
He'll be here tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Good
I
night.
heard, and you probably heard the same thing. I heard last night that the Rock Church was at.
By ordinance, shall establish by ordinance. There it is.